They laughed the moment he said the name. Not a soft laugh, not a polite one, but the kind that cuts through your chest and stays there. The judges exchanged glances. The audience chuckled. Somewhere in the crowd, a few people shook their heads as if the story was already over. A small Filipino boy stood alone on one of the biggest stages in the world, gripping the microphone with hands that trembled just enough to betray his fear. And yet, in his eyes, there was something else. Not confidence. Not arrogance. Something far rarer. Belief. Before we go any further, if stories of unexpected greatness and once-in-a-lifetime moments move you, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what happens next changed everything in just 90 seconds. His name was barely announced before the whispers started. He didn't look like a star. He didn't sound like one either when he spoke. His accent was thick, his voice quiet, almost apologetic, as if he was sorry for taking up space. When asked what song he would sing, he paused, swallowed, and said a name that felt far too heavy for someone so small. Elvis. That was all it took. Laughter rippled across the room. Elvis was a legend. Elvis was untouchable. Elvis was not supposed to come from a boy who grew up thousands of miles away, in a cramped house where dreams were louder than opportunities. Back home in the Philippines, his life was simple, but not easy. Mornings started early, not with alarm clocks, but with the sound of traffic and neighbors waking up for work. His parents did everything they could, but there were days when food was counted, not chosen. Music became his escape. An old radio sat in the corner of their home, its sound crackling, its buttons worn. That radio carried voices from another world, and one of those voices was Elvis Presley. While other kids played outside, he sat quietly, listening, mimicking, dreaming. He didn't understand every word, but he felt every note. At school, he was different. While others laughed loudly, he stayed quiet. When asked what he wanted to be, he never said singer out loud. He had learned early that some dreams invite ridicule. Still, at night, when the world slowed down, he sang softly so no one would hear. He sang to the walls, to the ceiling, to a future he wasn't sure would ever come. His parents noticed. They didn't have money for lessons or fancy equipment, but they had something else. Faith. They told him his voice mattered, even when the world didn't agree. The journey to that stage wasn't magical. It was filled with rejections, doubts, and moments where quitting felt logical. Auditions where he was overlooked. People who smiled politely and moved on. Every no stacked up, heavy and exhausting. But every time he thought of giving up, he remembered that radio, that voice, and the feeling it gave him. He wasn't trying to be Elvis. He was trying to honor the hope Elvis gave him. So there he stood, under blinding lights, with laughter echoing around him. The judges asked if he was nervous. He nodded. Someone smiled, almost kindly, as if preparing him for disappointment. The music hadn't even started yet, and expectations were already low. The audience leaned back in their seats. Phones were ready, not to record greatness, but embarrassment. Then the first note hit. The laughter stopped. Not slowly. Instantly. His voice didn't come from a place of imitation. It came from somewhere deep, raw, and honest. It was rich, controlled, and impossibly mature for someone his age. The room changed. You could feel it. People leaned forward. Eyes widened. One judge's smile faded into shock. Another's jaw dropped slightly, as if their mind was struggling to catch up with what their ears were hearing. He wasn't just singing. He was telling a story. Every word carried years of quiet practice, years of being unheard. His voice filled the space where laughter had been seconds earlier. The boy who was underestimated now owned the stage completely. Confidence replaced fear, not because he decided to be brave, but because the music demanded it. 90 seconds can feel like a lifetime when you're waiting to fail. But these 90 seconds became history. By the time he reached the final note, there were tears in the audience. Not from sadness, but from realization. They had judged him before he began. And he forgave them with his performance. The silence afterward was heavy, sacred. Then the applause exploded. People stood without thinking. The same crowd that laughed was now cheering louder than anyone. The judges rose to their feet, clapping, shaking their heads in disbelief. One of them admitted they were wrong. Another called it unforgettable. In that moment, the boy didn't just change their minds. He changed the room. But the real victory wasn't the applause. It was the look on his face. Relief. Pride. Gratitude. He hadn't just proven them wrong. He had proven something to himself. That his voice mattered. That his dream wasn't foolish. That where you come from doesn't decide how far you can go. Back home, families gathered around screens. Neighbors who once doubted watched in silence. Parents hugged their children tighter. Somewhere, another kid with a quiet dream felt seen for the first time. Because this wasn't just his story anymore. It was theirs too. Challenges didn't disappear after that performance. Fame brings its own weight. Expectations grow heavier. Criticism becomes louder. But now, he knew something unshakable. He could walk into a room where no one believed in him and walk out having changed hearts. That is the power of courage. Not loud courage. Not fearless courage. But the kind that shakes, steps forward anyway, and sings. If this story inspired you even a little, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us why belief matters, why dreams survive laughter, and why sometimes, all it takes is 90 seconds to change everything. Because the world will laugh at what it doesn't understand. And sometimes, the greatest response isn't anger or explanation. It's letting your voice be heard.